hear that in Congress they introduced a bill to get rid of daylight savings.
What?
To get rid of daylight savings. So we'll see if it happens.
Did
but I
it
know
pass yet?
I don't know.
Hello, Peter.
Hello there.
Glad you're back.
Glad to be here. The 11th? I'm not sure.
Good evening. Welcome to the Charter Township of Van Buren Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. At this time, I'm calling the meeting to order. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Sherry Budd,
Here.
Bernie Grant is excused. Peter Creel
Here.
is excused. Jackson Paul,
Here.
Jeff Jar, Brian Cullen.
Here. With that, we have an agenda presented in front of us that is different than what we were given. Do I have any action concerning the agenda?
Through the chair, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second?
We have a motion to approve the agenda as presented and supported. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the agenda is approved. Minutes. Did we, the minutes, Director Akers?
Mr. Chairman, the draft minutes were not available in time by the time the packet was sent out, so we will have the minutes of the January 14th meeting on the next Planning Commission agenda.
Okay, thank you. So then we move ahead. Correspondence and announcements. First up, we have our Tri-Community Planning Commission meeting tomorrow night, and I believe it's at 5 o'clock at the high school. Is that correct, Director Akers? 5 o'clock at the high school?
Yes, the meeting will be at 5 p.m. at the high school cafeteria tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. As well as the fact on February 12th, both the City of Belleville Planning Commission as well as the Sumter Township Planning Commission has meeting, and I'm not sure on their start times, but their meetings are available to be seen if you so desire. Next up is the general public comment, and again tonight, we will entertain any comments concerning the items not on the agenda. You will be given 3 minutes of time to speak and speak only once. Anything beyond that, if you have a rebuttal, it will be for a minute and a half. And we will go forward from there. There's one speak. You cannot transfer your speech to somebody else. Either you're going to speak or you'll let it go. So with that in place, do we have anybody that would like to make a comment?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to, if I could, bring up that the current agenda does not have the car wash project on it as was originally presented when the packet was sent out. If anyone was here to make a public comment on the car wash agenda item, I think it would be appropriate to do that now in the general public comment section. We did have additional correspondence on the car wash project, but since it has fallen off of the agenda, we're going to hold on to that correspondence and we'll bring that into the record when the agenda item is presented formally to the Planning Commission again. That public hearing request and that action item was removed at the request of the applicant.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself and address, and then you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Chad Zerny. I live at 1104 Westlake Circle. And I just wanted to bring up a few comments about the data center proposal. First of all, I wanted to thank you for putting the materials on the website regarding the project. I know the project isn't on the agenda tonight, but I just wanted to put a few comments out there and a few concerns. I was curious what the guarantees are for the claims made in the project proposal. The claims about the noise ordinance and the water not being affected, or just any of the general points to which the claims are made that there won't be any real effect on the community. So I just want to put the thought out there and the concern out there that what is the actual recourse that we have if the developer or the company operating the data center infringes on certain ordinances. So that's one point I was concerned about. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say. I still haven't gone through all the material, but thank you for putting that up, and hopefully I'll have more to say at the actual meeting. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to raise a quick point of privilege. Could the speaker say his name again? I'm sorry, I missed. I was writing furiously and I didn't get your name.
Chad Zerny.
Thank you, Chad. Mr.
Thank you,
Zerny.
sir. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment?
Hi, my name is Monique Kirkowski, and I come from Van Buren Township. I do have some concerns as I'm watching in the news how many people in townships around the United States are putting moratoriums in place for hyperscales. I'm going to make that distinction because I think it's a very important one. We understand data centers in our community. They've been embraced. Kevin says he wants more of those, but we're talking hyperscales. And so moratoriums are coming into play in many different townships in our direct area and around the United States and around the world. I'm wondering what our township is doing to help protect our community. The township people have spoken and they've asked for moratoriums. Is that happening? I'd like to see some evidence, and I'd like to know what steps are being taken to make sure we're protected. I'm also asking for understandings regarding nuclear use. I'm seeing clear evidence that that is going to be the way that these hyperscales are powered. I'd like to know what ordinances are being put in place, zoning. There should be specific zoning for hyperscales, and clear ordinances and zoning violations for trying to put nuclear reactors in our area. Those are the things that I'm hoping we get some clarity on soon, before it's too late. Again, I'm seeing people being proactive, but I feel like our township's being reactive, and I'd like to see that stop.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to make a comment? Anyone else to make a comment? Anyone else? Then I believe we'll move ahead. The public hearing for tonight has been removed from the agenda by the applicant, and we apologize that if there's anybody here to speak against the car wash or for the car wash, that item was just removed from the agenda yesterday after it was already presented, so apologize if you're here for that to speak to it. Then moving ahead, old business. We don't have any new business. Project Venture, final site plan approval. Request by applicant HIP VI Enterprises LLC on behalf of owner Wayne County Airport Authority to construct a 2,111,200 square foot warehouse building. The site is located at parcel V 125-83-017-99-0002-705 on the north side of Ecorse Road, south of Van Born Road, east of Denton Road, and west of Beck. At this time, we'll have a presentation by the township staff, Director Akers.
Thank you very much. I will turn the comments over to our township planner, Vidya Krishnan.
Thank you, Director Akers. Members of the Commission, the request before you tonight is for final site plan approval for Project Venture, which is Stellantis, located as was read out in the agenda. The applicant appeared before you and received preliminary site plan approval on June 11th of 2025, and that preliminary approval was subject to numerous conditions, which I shall summarize. The first of the conditions was the coordination with the township engineer and Wayne County regarding access for trucks off Ecorse Road. The Planning Commission was concerned that trucks entering and exiting the site should not cause any backup or any conflicts on Ecorse Road itself. Since then, the applicant has worked with both the county and received approval from the county for the proposed design. It shows short acceleration and deceleration lanes to the side of Ecorse Road. So vehicles that are headed westbound on Ecorse will be able to turn into the site with a right turn. There is enough stacking for 6 trucks, so cars can still continue further west. The vehicles that are headed eastbound trying to turn into the site will also have an area where they can stack before they make a turn into the site itself. The applicant has stated that they have anticipated staggered arrival of trucks, quick security checks, and they also have stacking for up to 12 vehicles until you get to the guard shed. So there will be no stacking on Ecorse Road itself to create any kind of conflict. We believe with the county approval, this condition has been satisfied. The applicant was required to submit approval from Eagle for proposed emergency access of Beck Road as was required by the Planning Commission, and that approval was obtained in a letter dated August 28th of 2025. They were required to show all the outdoor storage areas with the material stacked so that if there are any emergency vehicles, the emergency vehicles can actually drive through those stacked material areas. It's not just piled in, so in the event of a fire or other emergency, fire trucks can't go in. The applicant's site plan clearly shows the layout, and the layout is represented with box. These are basically auto parts and automotive-related items. So there is enough circulation, so in the event of an emergency, vehicles can drive through it too. One of the concerns was, since this is such a big building, when emergency vehicles enter the site of Ecorse Road, they should not be stuck in the back if there are trucks that are still entering the site to the guardhouse. There is bypass lane provided, but in the event there are additional trucks, we had required that the curbs that are provided next to the guardhouse be mountable curbs so that the fire truck can climb over the curbs and bypass if there are trucks parked. And the revised design just does show mountable curbs. I'll defer to the fire department review for emergency access for the entire site. One of the other conditions was a sidewalk connection from Denton Road till the employee entrance, which is on the west side of the building. Now, their originally approved site plan does have a sidewalk shown on Denton Road from their west access drive, which is their main employee access drive, all the way up to the northwest corner till the railroad tracks. But there was no connection from Denton Road to their front entrance. Instead of providing a sidewalk right alongside their main entrance, which means they would have to grade more and create more impervious surface, they have just paved an additional area next to the emergency access along the north side. There are 2 access drives off Denton. One is strictly for emergency access. So they are providing striped sidewalk area next to the emergency access, which will then connect via a crosswalk and a paved area to the front building entrance, satisfying this requirement. Wayne County has reviewed and approved their stormwater detention plans, and the stormwater plans that were submitted did show the landscaping that was approved by Planning Commission. So as such, the landscape plan is also approved. The applicant appeared before the Planning Commission on July 23rd and received approval for a tree removal permit. They have removed a significant amount of trees with approval of permit. As a replacement, they are providing 320 additional trees, of which 270 are oversized. They are providing an additional $100,000 into the township's tree replacement fund. And they are also going to be providing an additional 350 trees to meet the landscaping standards. So a total of 670 new trees will be planted on site. The applicant couldn't possibly include any more trees on the site because the site is located on the flight path. So Wayne County Airport regulates how many trees can be planted and where they can be planted on the site so that they do not interfere with the landing path for aircrafts. I'll defer to the township engineer for stormwater detention review. One of the conditions was compliance of the photometric plan with the recently adopted township lighting ordinance. The proposed plan does comply. All of the fixtures are downward directed and shielded, and their maximum color corrected temperature rating is also 3000 Kelvin or under that. All the elevations were approved as part of preliminary site plan. The one thing they were required to provide was how does this guardhouse look? Now, the guardhouse that they have submitted is a prefab unit. It's basically a structure constructed completely of siding. It's gray in color with a teal roof to match Stellantis colors. It is utilitarian. We just believe it does not go with the rest of the building materials. So our recommendation is that the applicant consider adding some masonry in the form of either the foundation wall or an accent so that the guardhouse building doesn't just look like an afterthought and looks like it was designed as part of the main building on the site itself. The guardhouse also shows floodlights. The township does not permit floodlights on any building, so the floodlights need to be removed. The applicant did receive a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals on August 12th for wall and monument signs for the site. The Planning Commission approved an increase in the fence height from 6 to 8 feet. However, since this is a secure facility, the applicant wanted to go to a height of 10 feet, which they received approval of a variance for. They did submit a detail of all proposed fencing. The security fencing around the site originally had barbed wire fencing, which we made the applicant remove all of the barbed wire fencing. We also told the applicant that the new security fence cannot be an opaque fence. So the new design is a painted aluminum fence. It is not one of those institutional looking fences. It is an outward climbed fence, which is an anti-climb design, which at the same time wouldn't pose a safety hazard. So that fence is 10 foot high. The fence will have an integrated mesh design on it. This mesh is a really fine mesh that is welded into the back of the fence. As the applicant explained it, it's basically to prevent employees from passing parts out through the gaps in the grills. This is something that they require in automotive facilities. The mesh is so fine that from a distance, you can't even see it. So it will look like a decorative security fence. The rest of the fence around the site in areas that are not visible from the public rights of way is 10-foot tall black vinyl coated chain link fence, and the fence will not have any slatting or any of the other plastic additives. It'll look like a clean finished fence. So based on the review of the project, all of the conditions of preliminary site plan approval have been met at this time, with the exception of the guardhouse design. So it is our recommendation at this time that the Planning Commission grant final site plan approval for Project Venture, which is Stellantis, to be located at the site as described on the agenda, subject to the condition that they add some masonry to the guardhouse building, replacement of the floodlights on the guardhouse structure, and approval by the township engineer and the township fire department. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Krishnan. Mr. Kamen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So it should be noted, the letter that you have received in your packet for this seems a little bit smaller or shorter for a site this size, but it should be noted that Fishbeck has gone through 2 complete engineering reviews prior to this as we worked through the engineering issues with the applicant prior to going to final site plan approval. And copies of those letters can be distributed, dated September 17th and November 24th. In general, the applicant has obtained all the necessary permits for the site and for final site plan engineering approval outside of a required MPDES permit, which we will work with the applicant to secure. For utilities on site for the water main, as we've discussed before, this site has existing water main surrounding each property line, north, south, east, and west, along Denton Road, Beck Road, Ecorse Road, and along the railroad. The applicant's plan proposes a private 12-inch fire suppression loop connecting to the existing main on Denton Road. And the loop then goes around the building, includes all of the necessary fire hydrants, as well as a fire tank and fire pump to supply the required pressures for those hydrants. The plans also indicate a proposed 3-inch service line which provides their domestic service to the building, which then also then provides additional service to the shack house or the guardhouse, I should say. From those, we didn't have any comments on, or had gone through all of the comments on the water main loop around the building. For sanitary service, the applicant's plan proposes a 10-inch sanitary private line that runs along the south side of the proposed building, catching all of the sanitary service outlets from the building, and then is discharged into a separate pump station on the south side of the building, which then leads into the sanitary service sewer that runs along E-Course Road south of the property line and in the E-Course right-of-way. No comments on that other than just verifying once everything goes in, it's to township standards. As Ms. Christian mentioned, stormwater management was a big part of this. They have received the Wayne County approval for stormwater management. The plans include a fully enclosed stormwater collection system utilizing standard catch basins, manholes, and sewers that conveys the runoff to 4 different open detention ponds. As we discussed early on, the applicant had gone to the Board of Trustees to grant a variance for stormwater detention to meet and match the Wayne County approval. With this Wayne County requirements, they do allow for dry detention ponds because of the topography of the site and the kind of flatness of the site. The ponds would have had to been overly deep, unnecessarily deep, to create the required dry or wet detention ponds. So that variance was granted by the township board. So you will have on the site 4 dry detention ponds, which will all get pumped from the detention ponds into the drains on site, which is the Horner drain or the Smith drain. One of the large items that Ms. Christian mentioned was the traffic impact study for the site. Fishbeck worked with the county to go through a couple different iterations of the, specifically the driveway off of E-Course Road. At one point, there was dual directional allowable, let me start over, dual exit directions allowable from the driveway, both easterly and westerly. Through the discussions with the county and with the township, it is now only western exits, egress in a westerly direction are allowed. So all trucks exiting the site have to turn and head west towards Michigan Avenue. I'm just going to read our last statement from our write-up, our engineering traffic write-up. So Fishbeck has reviewed the September 2025 traffic impact study prepared by Langen Incorporated for the proposed Project Venture site. Based on the October 29th, 2025 final site plans, the development will have 690 employees and 100 trucks per day. Access to the site will be provided via 2 proposed driveways on Denton Road, 1 proposed driveway on E-Course Road, and 1 proposed driveway on Beck Road. Now, as Ms. Christian said, 2 of those driveways, the one on Beck and the northern driveway on Denton, are for emergency access only. The southern driveway in Denton will be used for employee access, and the driveway off E-Course will be for truck access only, and will allow ingress from both east and west, and egress only to the west, so right turnout only. All the comments from the traffic impact study and our previous comments have been addressed, and the Wayne County Department of Public Services has also approved their study. Other than that, as I mentioned, we've gone through many iterations with the applicant for engineering standards. And at this time, Fishbeck would recommend the Planning Commission grant Project Venture Their site plans dated December 9th, 2025, final site plan approval based on engineering review. And if there are any questions or comments regarding any of our items, I'm happy to discuss them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamer. Fire Marshal's report, Director Akers.
So the fire marshal performed a review of the Project Venture site plan, the final site plan review. The focus of the review was fire department access and water supply in the Van Buren Township. Fire marshal reviewed it under the IFC 2021 Fire Code. They have found that the water supply is compliant. The plans show the 12-inch ductile iron fire service main, water connecting at Denton Road and running east to a fire pump house containing 2 fire pumps and water tanks. The water main then loops around the building. And the fire marshal also found that fire department access for the property was compliant. They indicated that the latest submittal does show 2 entrances off Denton Road, an employee entrance and an emergency entrance, and then also 1 entrance off Beck Road and the main truck entrance off Ecorse Road. There are stipulations where they have to provide Knox boxes for emergency access to the emergency entrances. And that concludes the review.
Okay, thank you. Now for the applicant. Is the applicant here, and would he like to do a presentation or make some comments? Please step to the microphone and introduce yourself to us, please.
Borgo, on behalf of Project Venture. We're here, of course, to answer any questions. We've obviously presented this project a couple of times and don't want to make the commission go through it again, but we're here to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any discussion, questions, comments concerning this?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jarrah.
I wonder if the applicant could comment on the appearance of the guardhouse and the planning consultant's suggestion for some brick additions. Any thoughts?
Sure. So we as we've mentioned to the township, we're certainly going to take that recommendation seriously, and we are going to add and make some changes to it. We'll work with the planning director and make sure that it conforms with what the township is looking for. We understand the request. The reason that it's the way it is this is the uniform that they use all over the country, that Stellantis uses, but we will work to make sure that it's enhanced to meet what the township is looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Commissioner?
Chair, on the similar, line of questioning, are you okay with removing the floodlights that are on the guard shack?
Yeah, we are.
Mr. Chairman, I have one more question for engineering. I know the report said that ponds were dry ponds rather than filled ponds. Just dry ponds are generally considered to be a better option around an airport runway anyway, right? So they have the added benefit of not attracting the waterfowl on the flight path?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We, through the chair, we need to update our engineering standards for stormwater ponds. We've Mr. Kamer and I have been having conversations with that over the last several months. We're going to be embarking on that here not too long.
I think it's been part of the airport's zoning, the airport zone for at least the county, I think. But so whenever I see it, I always go, oh yeah, dry ponds, it's a good idea. I know that's good in the flight path. I really don't have any other questions for staff or the applicant, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anyone else? Questions?
I got one more question, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. How does the applicant pronounce the name of the company? HIPVI Enterprises? HIP6?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's HIP6? Thanks.
Okay, with that, anybody? Anyone from the public wish to comment on this item?
I'll state my name again. It's Monique Kirkowski, Van Buren Township resident. I am obviously newer, eyes wide open to these larger projects that come in and the decisions that are made regarding them. And I noticed the same consultants used and I hope I don't butcher names, McKenna, Fishbeck, and I see the same names repeated over and over again. For these larger projects, do we ever consult a second party to make sure that the findings of the first are within the best interest of the community?
Director Akers?
So our consultants' roles, they provide the reviews based on our specific engineering criteria that the township has adopted and our specific zoning ordinances that the township has adopted. They are the groups who are most familiar with our sets of rules. So I guess in short, we normally don't use outside reviewers to review these projects when they come up, when they're reviewing them based on our existing zoning codes and engineering standards. There are circumstances where we do use and our contractors use sub-consultants if there are specific things which are outside their area of expertise. But for the most part, no, our consultants review those in-house. They're not in-house, but they review them on behalf of the township.
So just watching these processes, I don't think that any of these are regular and usual projects. They're much larger than the normal scope. I see your concern that you disagree. On the scope of all that is changing in Van Buren Township, sir, I disagree with your shock and my response, right? I drive through my township and it looks like the apocalypse. When you go down E-Course in 275, you see Van Buren Township and you see nothing but waste dumps, right? And now we have very large buildings coming in with huge energy requirements, and I think collective voices are smarter voices. And on these larger projects, I would ask that second consult be considered, not on car washes, not on those, but on these larger ones that make a huge impact to the community where they're at, where the community will never look the same again because of this footprint. I really recommend there being a second outside consultant, two voices, something, not just the familiar, but maybe poking things that maybe you hadn't considered. More of a comment.
Thank you.
Just one comment, and I fully appreciate the comments and the concerns. One of the reasons why we at the township use outside consultants to do a lot of our project reviews and do those things rather than hire an internal planner to do them is primarily because the consultants have deeper benches. You know, Fishbeck is a very large company that has many, many employees and who have a lot of people who have a lot of experience in a lot of different things. And McKenna & Associates has a large number of planners who work all across the Midwest who have experience in doing site plan reviews for all types of development. So that is primarily one of the reasons why the township does use outside consultants, because, you know, if I were doing the site plan review for every single project, there were certainly going to be things that I have not run into. And so that's why we rely on their expertise, because they have a deeper bench than we would administratively. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Then with that, commissioners, do you have a desire concerning this project? Commissioner Jarrah.
I would move to grant the applicant HIP 6 Enterprises LLC on behalf of owner Wayne County Airport Authority the final site plan approval to construct a 2,111,200 square foot warehouse building at the site located as described in the agenda item, based on the analysis and subject to the conditions detailed in the McKenna letter dated January 18th, 2026, January 20th, 2026 for Fishbeck, and the VBT fire report dated January 20th, 2026, with no additional notes or conditions.
Okay. Support. We have a motion by Commissioner Jarrah, supported by Commissioner Creel. Do we have any discussion concerning the motion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jackson Paul? Yes. Peter Creel?
Yes.
Sherry Budd? Jeff Jar?
Yes.
Cullen?
Yes. So we carry. Final site plan is granted. You're welcome. Okay, item number 2 on the agenda, cul-de-sac length ordinance discussion number 1. Discuss proposed cul-de-sac length and ordinance amendment First up, presented by the township staff. Director Akers, please.
Thank you, Chairman Cullen. So several months ago, we were considering a handful of residential developments where we were looking at specifically the Pulte development at the northwest corner of Morton Taylor and Tyler Road. So one of the concerns that have been brought up about that property was the length of the cul-de-sacs. And one of the comments that the planning commissioners had made at the time was they wanted us to revisit the section of our zoning ordinance which dealt with cul-de-sac length and site condominium developments. So what we did was we went through our existing development standards. Even though we don't see them very much anymore, the township still has a general ordinance which deals with platted subdivisions. And we checked that the cul-de-sac length in that ordinance and compared it to our site condo standards and found that that cul-de-sac length was actually capped at 600 feet instead of the 1,200 feet that's required by the township site condominium ordinance, excuse me. So we didn't want to let this item sit on the shelf any longer. We did want to bring it forward for planning commission discussion and put that forward for the planning commission to consider about changing it to be consistent with the 600-foot length that's in our platted subdivision standards. So what we really want to do is have a conversation with the planning commission and see how the planning commission feels. If 600 feet is comfortable for the board, we will go ahead and move forward and prepare an ordinance amendment and schedule a public hearing. But based on that, just wanted to get some feedback on the planning commission to see how everybody felt about it.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So the 1,200 feet requirement in the condominium ordinance, it comes from our condominium regulations were written, they're at least 2 decades plus old. So when the condominium ordinance was first written, it was structured the same way as all other municipalities. 1,200 feet was sort of the standard that was put into most ordinances. We adopted our own design guidelines, but in terms of street layout, we adopted the 1,200. That's where the 1,200 came from originally. Subdivisions, the subdivision ordinance is really old. It's been in our main code of ordinances for a really long time, and nobody builds platted subdivisions anymore. I can't recollect any, at least in the last 25 years. So if we want, we could consider, that's where we are picking the 600 from. It seems like an arbitrary number, but I just wanted to mention that 1,200 came because that seemed to be the standard everybody was adopting. 600 is something we had, so if you want to consider changing it, that's the reason for the recommendation.
The only other thing I wanted to add is I did take the opportunity, because we do have a handful of developments in the township where we do have short cul-de-sacs. So I did want to take the opportunity. So there's a couple of shorter cul-de-sacs in Andover Farms and in Van Buren Estates, which is Haggerty Sub. Those cul-de-sacs, because they measure them from basically where the intersection is to the furthest edge of the right-of-way along the circle. So those cul-de-sacs are somewhere between 300 and 400 feet in length. And I believe they're 3 homes on the side and then another 3 to 5 homes along the curve. So just for perspective.
Comments? I think it's a good move. I don't see a reason why we need a 1,200-foot cul-de-sac.
I don't see a need for a 1,200-foot cul-de-sac, but I see a safety issue with a 1,200-foot cul-de-sac. I mean, that's really the issue.
Yeah.
To each their own. Some neighborhood layout people want to have a long street with a cul-de-sac at the end of it. I don't know, I suppose that's a matter of preference, but when it comes to being a matter of safety and whether or not our public services can get in there to put a fire out, do a rescue, keep people safe, I think it's important that our design criteria represent what our public services that our taxpayers pay for are able to actually do. And a 1,200-foot cul-de-sac is a problem, we should shorten it.
I agree.
I think the challenge also was, before we had these larger lots, but under PRD, somebody can get a modification to preserve more open space, so the lot sizes get smaller, which means more homes in that 1,200 length. If previously you would probably have 10 homes, you can probably now have 14 homes over there because you're saving more as open space and the lots are becoming smaller, more are crammed in, which creates a greater safety concern than there was before. So,
Higher likelihood of there being a public services event, police having to show up, and more people being perhaps, unable to leave the subdivision due to a road being blocked, due to a fire or other, let's hope it never happens, but, that it's a possibility. And that's, I believe, why we're considering this this cul-de-sac amendment. 600 feet seems reasonable, 1,200 feet seems pretty long.
provide direction to staff. We will bring back amendment to place before you in a correct format.
Commissioner Creel, what do you think?
I mean, I think from a safety standpoint, it makes perfect sense. 1,200 feet, 10, my next question to staff was gonna be, how many homes can you get in a 1,200 foot, right?
Yeah.
Thinking 120, 10, that's 20 homes that you have without, potentially, half of that could be blocked from a safety issue, so I'm in agreement with it, absolutely.
And if you think about it, that 60-foot lots and that 1,200 foot, that's 20 homes on one side.
Yeah.
You could have 20 homes on the other, so now you're looking at 40 homes. That's a lot of homes.
But, I mean, the easy fix is you put an intersection street halfway down and you're fine, right? You just gotta provide that exit out. So I don't think it's gonna restrict, I don't wanna restrict our potential future developers,
No,
but
no,
I think it's an easy workaround to comply with it, so I don't have a problem with it at all.
Mr. Chair, I don't know that staff necessarily needs a motion for it, but if they're looking for one, I'd be happy to make a motion that they work up an ordinance amendment for presentation to the Planning Commission at their earliest convenience.
Formalize it, that would be helpful. If you could make
That
a
was my
motion.
motion, Mr. Chair.
I'll support that motion.
Do we have to have roll call on that?
No.
I didn't think so. I thought we could voice vote that. We have a motion and support. Motion by Commissioner Jarr, supported by Commissioner Creel. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So please, draft up an amendment.
So just a point of order on that one, does that require a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
And at least one review from us, too. It doesn't get to go to public hearing until we.
Not until we
read it.
finalize our,
Ripped it all up and red circled it and sent it back. Yeah, like we always do. Rarely do.
You're fine. You're fine. I'm just trying to write some stuff down. Okay, that brings us up to general discussion and updates. Director Akers, do you have anything for us?
I do have a few things. So, as I had said at the last couple meetings, we do have our frequently asked questions website on the township's page for the data center project. We've updated it as of this week with all of the site plan documents that were submitted, with the noise study that the developer submitted, and we updated it with FAQs from the last planning commission meeting, answering some of those questions that have come up. There are still a couple of additional items that the township is completing that will be up on there. We're doing our, own independent noise assessment of the areas around there. So we're working on that. We're expecting to have results by the end of that first week of February. And then we're also looking at doing a vibration as well. So we're working on that. We should have results hopefully by that end of that first week in February. And so we'll make those available on there. The data center project is going to be on the February 11th meeting. So please, everybody, come to the February 11th meeting. So that will be on, and that will be the only item on that agenda. There will be nothing else. So that way we'll have plenty of time for public comment and for answers and questions and all that. As I had indicated before, the fire marshal will be here. We'll have our attorney here. We'll have all the resources available to the planning commission to hopefully get questions answered and make a decision. I want to remind everybody about the joint meeting tomorrow at the high school cafeteria. It is scheduled to start at 5 p.m. I believe we sent everybody out the agenda. It's just a series of updates. It'll be our joint community meeting. We can hear about City of Belleville's master plan updates and some of the things they're doing and hear what Sumter Township's doing as well. So the last thing that I have for general updates is we had posted this on our website and on our social media page, but I just wanted to read it so that way everybody's aware, because this is something that we've had, our applicants have experienced as well. But it's Van Buren Township is aware of a nationwide scam in which fraudulent emails are being sent while impersonating municipal planning and zoning departments. These messages are designed to appear legitimate and may reference real objects, applications, or meeting agenda items. In some cases, the emails threaten legal action or additional fees and instructs recipients to submit large payments via email or wire transfer. So I want to make sure we clarify the following: that Van Buren Township does not request payments via unsolicited email. We do not demand wire transfers or payment confirmation by email. Official township email communications originate only from the vbtmi.gov domain. And then emails complaining to be from the township using other domains such as usa.com are not legitimate. These fraudulent messages rely on publicly available information and do not indicate that township systems were compromised. So if you do receive an email claiming to be from the Township of Van Buren Planning Commission or Zoning Board and are unsure of its legitimacy, do not respond or send payment. Please contact the township directly using the contact information listed on our official website, vvtmi.gov. And so I will say that is, as we have specified, that is why we don't put the applications in the packets anymore, because this has been occurring. It has occurred. It's a real thing that's going on nationally. So I just wanted to read it, make sure everybody's aware of it, and just let them know that the township will never ask anybody to wire money to us. So if there's any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Comments? Announcements?
Mr. Chair, I want to bring up 2 points. One's a longer point of discussion that I want to engage with staff and the rest of the commission. But first, I do want to say that one of the public speakers made a comment that our community looked like a wasteland, and also made some allegations that perhaps our staff was not the most professional group that we could have possibly employed. And they also made a comment that maybe I may have expressed some dismay at those comments. I'm not dismayed, I'm angry at those comments. They've really upset me. I don't think our community looks like a wasteland. I think it looks nice. I think we try very hard to make it look nice. I'm from here, I grew up here. I moved away to a different part of the country for couple decades. And when I had a chance to move back to Van Buren Township, I could have moved anywhere in the world. I moved here because I like it here. I will say, in the 8 years I've been on the Planning Commission, our staff has been nothing but professional. I get the opportunity from our community to get training as a planning commissioner. I don't get a lot of money. I made more money when I was digging graves and cutting grass for this community than I get to be a planning commissioner, and that's true. It doesn't bother me, and I'm not asking for a pay raise. I'm just saying, I am not some highly paid professional, but I am well trained and I'm well taken care of by my community. And I really do this job because I feel like I have to give back to our community, that I'm doing my best to ensure that our community looks good, looks great, is a great place to live, work, and play, is good for business, is good for people to be a part of. A wasteland? Yeah, I look shocked when I hear that comment. I don't appreciate it, and I don't believe it's true. I've also had the opportunity as a planning commissioner going to planning commission meetings and seeing and talking to other communities to see how they handle their planning commissions and how they handle requests to build, buildings, planning commission stuff, zoning ordinances. And I can say, I believe that Van Buren Township cares dramatically about zoning and planning and really appreciates the amount of professionalism that our staff has and our consultants. We have the best consultants in the state, my opinion, but I think it's shared by many people throughout the state that we do have a professional group. And when our staff says that we engage them because they have bench depth, well, I'm not even real sure what that means, except I do know what it means. What it means is that when we ask our consultants from Fishbeck or from McKenna, and we ask them a question about how zoning ordinances are to be applied, or how other communities handle that, they have the resources in their companies to be able to go out and look at other communities and see what other communities are doing. We get to learn from other communities and what they do because we have these consultants, because they are as professional as they are. They present us with all of the information they have at the time they have it. They answer our questions, and sometimes we ask some tough questions. A lot of it's done behind the scenes. I have never, in the time I've been on a planning commission, had my staff or any of our township consultants treat me in a rude way, an unprofessional way, or be anything but highly effective professionals. And I want to say thanks to you guys. It's not easy to sit up here sometimes and get feedback that is negative. Just know that I feel you guys do a wonderful job. And I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
If you want to have any comments or discussion on that, that's fine. And then I want to move on to a different point for a minute.
Through the chair, as far as being on the board, so I do sit here and representing the board, and I will say that it's been a few years now, but when we decided who we were going to go look out for, we put RFPs out there. So we did review different planning consultants. We also did different engineering comes. And 7 members of this board decided McKenna was who we wanted to representative. And personally, I've never been sorry because, like, I would agree with everything that Jeff has said. They've always been there for questions. I've even called and gotten answers when I wanted them. And I can say the same thing for Fishback. I haven't had to call, but I always feel very confident that the information we're getting is correct and what is best to serve this residents. And I guess I would always like people to remember that we all live here. My family lives here, my kids live here, and I am very much trying to make sure that this township makes where I want my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren to always be able to say, I'm glad I live in Van Buren Township. Thank you.
I concur with everything Commissioner Jar has said, and beyond that point, I'm relatively new, 5 years onto the commission now, or 5 years, and working with them, both Fishbeck, McKenna, and our staff, bringing you online, bringing you up to speed to what goes on here, and the support and the background, able to attend the conferences we attend to find, and we do attend those conferences, planning conferences, not for any other reason than to gain knowledge, to become better at what we do here and be concerned. I'm the 3rd generation from this township. And in fact, I got a great-grandfather that was treasurer of this township at one time. And I know we're going to have progress. And one of the reasons I got on was not just to give back, but to hope to be able to see the progress in a manner that makes it look like a very worthy township, like a place that people want to come and live. We are going to have progress. There's no denying that. But the growth rate and how we control that growth is what we have here, and we want to make sure that it doesn't turn out. I'm sorry, Canton, Michigan, if you're listening. Driving through Canton is a nightmare, and I know driving Belleville Road is a nightmare at times. Can try to control what we have so that we don't end up with problems that we see in Canton, Michigan, that we see, oh God, up in Rochester. Drive through Rochester some afternoon. You want to see a nightmare up there. So I believe in what we have here is probably the best that's out there. At these conferences, we've met others, and yes, they are knowledgeable. They know what's going on, but they're in our home. They have helped write our ordinances. They understand what was done to put those ordinances in place and give us an insight into what they believe would look the best. And if we disagree, and we have. But they give us 100%, and thank God they're there. That's all I have to say. And if there's no other comments
There is. Oh, on this topic, I have
on
another
on
topic
this?
I need to bring up.
Oh, you want to bring something else up?
I
Okay.
do. Unless you
All
got
right.
any comments?
I would just add that absolutely staff and our consultants have been great to work with. We touched on it. Absolutely, there'll be disagreements. That's what happens when you get 7, 9 people involved in discussing topics. But yeah, have full trust that at the very least we would be able to work together, come to an agreement that benefits the community as a whole. Because like you said, we all do live here.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've heard a lot about the data center come up. It's pretty rare we get people showing up at public meetings when the agenda item hasn't even hit our agenda yet, which means that, obviously it's a big deal. I don't mean to make light of it. It's a big deal across the state. Data center's a big deal across the country. I have worked in the data center industry. I'm a computer network professional. I know what they look like. I've built very smaller scale ones. But I've worked on internet and internet-related technologies for my entire career. And the change that we see now in these data centers in the last 10 years is profound. It's not very profound in what they look like on the inside. They're still computers in racks. They're still networked. But the power density is much higher than it used to be. Like a factor of 10. Imagine if your refrigerator in your house suddenly required 10 outlets to plug into instead of the one. Well, that's what we're thinking about here. That's the issue. And like a refrigerator in your house, if you ever stuck your hand behind the refrigerator in a house, it's warm behind your refrigerator. Maybe you don't notice it, but try it. You find out. Stick your hand behind your refrigerator, it's warm. There's a lot of heat that has to come out. Your refrigerator is running, your air conditioning has to remove the heat from the refrigerator. That's just thermodynamics, that's how it works. If you were suddenly running 10 refrigerators in your house, you would start to run into a real problem with your air conditioning. So there are power requirement, physical realities that happen with public utilities, power consumption, heating, cooling. If your air conditioner was running by, say, sucking water in from the tap and pouring it out on your front yard to water your yard, your household water consumption would be quite a bit higher than is the norm. This is a change that's happened recently. It's less than 10 years. I mean, it really is less than 10 years. And it's gone up by a factor of 10 in less than 10 years. I don't think our ordinances are necessarily right on top of that, in much the same way that we reviewed our lighting standards. All of our lighting standards were written at a time when a 100-watt light bulb, you knew what a 100-watt light bulb was, right? You know how much light comes out of a 100-watt light bulb or a 60-watt light bulb or a 40. Yeah, do you know how much light comes out of a 100-watt LED? Oh man, it's a spotlight. I mean, they're so efficient. The efficiency gains on lighting are greater than a factor of 10. And once we realized that that was something that was affecting our township, because our ordinances said you could put 100 watts of light on the side of your building, well, suddenly that's a lot more light. And that was a technology change that came very quickly. I do feel that with regard to these data centers or any kind of industrial use, when the power consumption required starts looking like what other communities have seen in the gigawatt range, even 100 megawatt range is huge. I think our hydroelectric dam at the Edna Belleville Lake is only a two megawatt plant, right? I think that makes like 2, right? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Sorry, didn't mean to quote a number. The point that I'm trying to make is that the technology is changing quickly, and unfortunately, I think that means we do need to act as quickly as the technology is changing to ensure that we are protecting the residents, the people who live, work, and play here. And we do need to watch it. We absolutely do need to watch it. We probably need to move faster than we normally would, because the technology has changed and is moving faster. I don't think there's a problem necessarily with, and I haven't looked at this one that's on our agenda yet, okay? That hasn't hit our agenda. I'm not talking about that. Data centers in general. I think any commercial or manufacturing facility that came in and wanted to drop in a gigawatt feed off of an ITC corridor line with an associated substation and a very large amount of public utilities use, be it water, networking, or power, is probably worth looking at more closely than a simple by right allowance in those zones. I don't know what the cutoff should be. I think there's a big difference between one person, say, making craft leatherware, making boots in the Belleville Road Overlay District versus a small factory, 50 employees turning out boots and motorcycle jackets versus a 300-acre Western wear facility with on-site leather tanning. I think, that's a matter of scale, and we need to recognize it. I would like to direct staff to start the process of thinking, where is the scale? Where do we make the cutoff, and where do we start to think, hey, at a certain point, this will have a large enough effect on our utilities in the township that it needs to go to a higher authority for review than just the planning commission. I'm thinking specifically our township board as perhaps a special land use at certain scale. We have a precedent for it. I know that when staff looks at a project and feels that it may be controversial or that it may contain more rigorous demands on the community than the average project, we try to encourage public outreach and community meetings for those projects. Maybe when a project has a community meeting, or when we feel that it deserves that special attention, maybe that's the cutoff for when it should be reviewed by not just the planning commission, but also by the board of trustees. I tried to come up with some ideas for, hey, what's a good number? How many megawatts is that? How many gallons of water should that be? How bad does my internet have to get before we say, gee, there's a few too many, data centers in the area? What if it was a metal stamping plant? Does that matter? And the answer that I came up with is, gee, I don't know. I don't know what other communities are doing. I know it's in a state of flux, but I know that we have to get on it. And so I would like to utilize our excellent staff and our excellent consultants to bring the knowledge to bear to come up with a recommendation for us. And I'm not saying for data centers. I am saying anytime we have a commercial use that has this large public impact, we should be considering all of it, not just one specific use. That's the point I wanted to make. I hope we can bring it up for discussion. I see Ms. Krishnan is nodding. And that's what I wanted to say, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you.
Yeah, and to go along with that, not just commercial, but industrial application as well.
That's it, Mr. Cullen. That's what Director Akers and myself had previously discussed, that we need to revisit the definition of all industrial uses in our zoning ordinance, because the term hyperscale is a relatively newer technology. When you look at our zoning ordinance definition, it says data centers, and it's a very comprehensive definition. The problem is now you have uses on this scale, but zoning works on the written language, not on the intent. You cannot say, this is not what we thought it's going to be, so you're subject to our rules. You cannot do that, because that is the first thing that will land you in court to be sued. Part of our job as planners is to protect our clients from legal liability. It is our role to balance development with private property rights with residents' rights. We have to strike a balance, because if you do not strike the balance and you take away those industrial and commercial property owners' rights and you're taken to the court and assessed damages, the damages will be paid by the local taxpayers. Textbook example is Canton Township. When they lost their tree ordinance challenge and they were assessed a damage close to $500,000, it was distributed among all the taxpayers. And when you're talking about industrial scale uses, the damages is not in hundreds of thousands, it is in millions of dollars. So it is very important in planning and zoning to understand what use by right is, what a special land use is. A use by right literally means if the use meets the written requirements of your ordinance, you must approve. If you say, I think this is going to be bad and deny it, we are going to land up in circuit court. Part of our role is to be able to get the municipality the best it can. That said, this is something that has given us a jolt, so we are going to be taking a look at our ordinances. We have already started working on it. Every industrial classification now, whether it is light manufacturing, heavy industrial, processing, data centers, we are going to relook at all those definitions and see if maybe those definitions need subclassifications based on intensity of use, as Commissioner Jar said. Maybe something that is a scale that employs 20 people and occupies so many acres of land is relatively a smaller scale use versus something that is bigger. So we will probably have to come up, and part of that will be looking at what other communities have done. You have got to look at municipalities that are comparable to ours. I mean, comparing ourselves to Birmingham and Rochester makes no sense, because they have, just to go back to your point, Rochester is my client. I'm their planner for the longest time.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, that Canton Township is represented here tonight.
Planner, just a resident. But, you know, the challenges of each community are different. In Rochester, it's always the downtown. It comes with popularity. The downtown is one of the most popular downtowns in the country. It comes with its own problems. There is always a traffic and a parking problem, no matter what. So there are different battles. So for us, the challenge is the scale of industrial development. And to just feed off on a little bit of what you said, I take immense pride in the work McKenna has done for Van Buren over the decades. It's not just been me, it's been other planners also who have worked. And there are so many times when I have cited Van Buren's ordinance to several of my clients in Oakland County and Washtenaw County as being the ordinance to adopt. The landscaping ordinance, the lighting ordinance are second to none in the state of Michigan, because many of Van Buren's ordinances are right at the peak of what regulations must be to safeguard. In fact, I've distributed Van Buren's lighting ordinance to multiple communities, including the city of Orchard Lake Village, where the smallest home is probably $2 million. That's the cheapest home. Because they're like, we want to know. I said, Van Buren regulates it based upon the Kelvin rating. They're like, we would like to see what the ordinance says so we can adapt it for our benefit. Because Van Buren has always been thinking ahead, trying to put in. You realize sometimes stuff comes, oh, lighting is an issue, let's look at an ordinance, let's fix it. Are we talking about building separation? Let us see what we can do to support economic development while making sure that the development is top quality. I mean, you've just got to see the cost of housing stock to realize that from when homes, what they were priced 20 years ago to now, we are trying to put missing middle in because the homes over here have become unaffordable. That is not an example of a community that is in a decline. That is an example of a community that is doing things right. Yes, we sometimes have uses like the data center, which is like, wow, it's one of its kind. It's not a gas station that comes up every few miles or a car wash. It's just one of those uses that we can do everything that we can from a planning standpoint, everything we can. And I know Fishbeck is doing every single engineering aspect that can be reviewed is being reviewed, all with the interest to safeguard the residents and the community's interests. That's where we are, while balancing out the rights and make sure we are protecting the community from liability. That said, I wandered off, I digressed, I apologize. I will get this industrial definitions to you. I went off on a tangent.
What, yeah. No,
To the
just,
chair, and that's why we like our consultants.
Yes, absolutely.
add to, and our consultants are fantastic. They do a wonderful job. And I know even on these data center projects, there are multiple McKenna planners who are working on data center projects around the state, and they have talked, and compared notes and done all that. But one of the things that the planning commission should also pat themselves on the back for too is, a zoning ordinance is never going to be perfect. It's never going to be fully perfect. It's a constantly changing environment. The guidelines, the things that we're facing are constantly changing. And the planning commission has taken up the attitude of continuous improvement, of constantly tweaking things and adjusting things and modifying our ordinance as we go. And that's what we should be doing. So good job, everybody. Thank you.
Through the chair. And I've also asked Ron, because the board is the one that has to set a moratorium, and he is getting a board agenda ready to do a moratorium. We understand that the data center is already on track. It can't be included, but before someone else comes in with that project or another big one, he is getting the agenda ready for the board to approve.
It's great to hear that our board recognizes that there's an issue. I don't know how you could miss it. I knew you didn't miss it. I know that our consultants didn't miss it, but I wanted to make it very clear that at our planning commission level, we get it too. And we're working hard for the people of Van Buren Township to, do the right thing and make sure our ordinances are updated. We're on it. I'm sorry government moves slowly sometimes. Other times I'm not so sorry, but we are on it and we're doing our job. Even though we don't get paid a lot.
Nope. But it is a pleasure to serve the community into this fashion. And again, thank you, consultants and staff. I think you guys do a fantastic job, just to repeat. And yes, we do have more than one item on the agenda for zoning look-ats. I was in Director Akers' office, and he's got a list of about 6 or 7 things that we've got running that we have to deal with. So it's constant. So with that, anybody else have any other comments that they want to pass along?
To the members of the audience who stayed for the whole meeting, thank you.
Yes. With all that in mind, I would entertain that all-important motion for,
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to make all of the motions this evening.
Oh, then I'll take it. Through the chair, I move to adjourn.
we have a motion and support for adjournment. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. With that, meeting adjourned.